luxury and elegance. That's what's expected. Right. And that's why they can build them bigger still. Did you hear that? Service, he keeps it himself, James. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. It isn't anything precise. I was merely speculating. You may have speculated more accurately than you realised. I did. I, of course, was privileged to accompany the gentleman to the smoking room. Now, indeed. Oh, that's another day done, James.
Another long day indeed. They went on talking late tonight.
Great affairs, James. Great affairs.
Always that way when Mr. Ismay dines with his lordship.
I should think so. His lordship and Mr. Ismay are eminent men. Harland and Wolff is the world's greatest shipbuilder, and the White Star Line is the jewel of the Atlantic services. Britannia rules the waves.
I hear Kuhne is faster now.
It's not a matter of speed, James. Not for Mr. Ismay's passengers.
Gentry always do appear to have time on their hands.
English.
English, perfect, yeah.
I came in here the day after my 14th birthday. Harland and Wolff. That's where you worked in Belfast. My dad got me a start. Then my brothers after me.
Birthday. Harland and Wolf. That's where you worked in Belfast. My dad got me my start. Then my brothers after me. You could hear the noise from where we lived, but nothing prepared you for the size of the place.
They put me to work on 401. That's what we called her. We knew she'd be the largest passenger ship in the world, but we didn't call her Titanic then.
I was there from the beginning. I watched the shipwrights lay the keel blocks. They set big wooden blocks on the slipway to start with. Then the keel is top of it, like a backbone. And the frames attached to that, like a skeleton.
Workshops everywhere. It took weeks to find your way around. There'd be workshops for every trade you ever heard of. Painters, sailmakers, coppersmiths, boiler makers, cabinet makers. I even learned a bit about French polishing off them.
Harland Roof was a fine place to work, but dangerous. Every ship cost a life, and there'd be lots of injuries besides.
I was in the engine works for a while. Very well equipped it was. That's where we built the triple expansion engines. 2 of them, each as high as a 3-story house.
I worked in the frame bending shop. You'd heat steel beams in the furnace, then hook them onto slabs of cast iron and hammer them curved. It was skilled work. You had to bend them more than you needed because the frame straightened out a little when it cooled.
The shell plates that made up the hull weighed up to 4.5 tons. They were taller than the da.
The plates were overlapped on the edges. Some were raised, one after another. We called it clincher. One of the foremen told me years ago, that's how you built steel ships.
I worked as a heater boy. You had to heat the rivets on a wee plate. You pumped the bellows till the rivet was white hot. Then you get a hold of it with your tongs and throw it up to the catcher. And he put it in the hole in the plate for the holder up.
There were 2 of us on the other side of the plate to hold her up. We had to hammer the rivet so it filled the hole before it turned dull red.
The double bottom. That's a wee space we called the tanks, made up of steel plates. The rest of the rivet squad all had to fit into that gap.
One of the 4 men would check each rivet with a special hammer. If it made a ringing sound, we'd have to go back and chase it out after work.
I'd get scared working down in that double bottom. You only had candles for light.
And the constant hammering against the shell plates. You could hear it all over Belfast. Some of those boys ended up stone deaf, so they did. We were paid 31 bob a week. The heater boy and catchwork at 16 bob. But we all worked the same 54 hours.
The upper deck was steel too, and part of the strength of the ship. There's no straight lines on the ship, and when you look down the weather deck, you could see the sheer of her hull, which stopped her flexion at sea.
The stern frame had to be strong enough to take the rudder turning in heavy seas. You'd have all these timbers and guy wires to steady the frame, and men scurrying around like ants underneath.
When we came to launch day, I was torn between pride and fear. The standing ways were coated in tallow, train oil and soft soap. So the ship would slide when they shifted her weight off the blocks. That was the most dangerous part. When the shipwrights were knocking away the last props. They were under compression, you see, and the sliding ways would be released by the hydraulic trigger.
100,000 people watched the launch. Some paid a bob to sit in the reserved seating. There were extra trams laid on. Then we all went off to the pub to wish her well.
Doc, you were proud to be an island man that day. And Titanic was the pride of Belfast.
Thank you for joining us. The tour will end in a few seconds. Please exit the car carefully and make sure you don't leave any personal possessions behind. When the car has stopped, push the lap bar down and lift up to exit safely. And mind your step as you leave the car. We look forward to seeing you again.
100,000 people watched the launch. Don't take a thought.
On April 5th, Titanic was pressed with a good value tribute to the people of Southampton and Belfast. By April 10th, the ship had been fully provisioned, including 75,000... by an estimated 100,000 people. Almost a year of fitting out followed, transforming the massive hull into the sumptuously appointed liner described by the White Star Line as the Queen of the Ocean. By March 1912, Titanic was ready for her maiden voyage. For Belfast, the triumphant culmination of many years' planning and labor. Before she could be handed over, Titanic had to undergo sea trials. On the 2nd of April 1912, she carried out a series of maneuvers in open water under the watchful eye of Board of Trade Inspector Francis Carruthers. Then, at 8 p.m. that evening, she departed Belfast for Southampton. She was preceded by a considerable weight of expectation. At Southampton, the White Star Line had already constructed the massive deep-water ocean dock, covering almost 16 acres and dredged to a depth of 40 feet.
England's premier passenger port was flourishing, with new shops, restaurants and businesses opening to service the growing passenger trade. And job opportunities on board ship and in the docks brought migrants from all over Britain and Ireland. Almost 400 of Titanic's crew lived in Southampton's northern district. A national coal strike had left several ships laid up in dock, and the prospect of a job on Titanic was a welcome relief for crewmen who managed to sign up. On April 5th, Titanic was dressed in her signal flags and pennants as a Good Friday tribute to the people of Southampton who had welcomed her. By April 10th, the ship had been fully provisioned, including 75,000 pounds of fresh meat, 40,000 eggs, 1,000 sweetbreads, and 8,000 cigars. At 7 a.m., Captain Edward John Smith came aboard the Titanic to prepare for the Board of Trade muster at 8. Around 9:30, the first passengers arrived on the boat train from London Waterloo. By late morning, all the passengers and crew were aboard, minus 2 firemen who were delayed in a public house and missed the departure. At noon on April 10th, bang on time and fully expecting to be in New York within a few days, the Titanic sounded her whistle and cast off her lines. Titanic's launch in May 1911 was watched by cigars. At 7 a.m., Captain Edward John Smith came aboard the Titanic to prepare for the Board of Trade muster at 8. Around 9:30, the first passengers arrived on the boat train from London Waterloo. By late morning, all the passengers and crew were aboard, minus 2 firemen who were delayed in a public house and missed the departure. At noon on April 10th, bang on time and fully expecting to be in New York within a few days, the Titanic sounded her whistle and cast off her lines. Titanic's launch in May 1911 was watched by an estimated 100,000 people. Almost a year of getting out of her.
cents in second class, dollars and pounds in first. Not mistakes I make. It is my privilege to serve my passengers every need, making the most profit. But I was on the Olympic house at $100 tip, helping Dr. Morgan find his favourite brand of cigar. Search the whole ship. We would like both American. They do right by you. Hats. Ah, Leg! Refer to your book. I want the table set properly this time. Things were rushed today. Sunday morning is lightning drill. At 5 a.m. we'll fasten our all that was cancelled. The old man knows what he's doing, I suppose. He is a fine ship's